Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. To our Muslim compatriots, Barakah the Salah, may this season bring more joy and happiness to us all. Last episode, in sharing with you the context of the press release by the FRS on the clarification on administration of stamp duties in Nigeria, we promised that we would be dealing in subsequent episodes with matters arising, because indeed, several matters have arisen. What are the chargeable instruments? What are the applicable rates? Who bears the burden of stamp duty? Who collects? Who remits? And so on and so on. That's what we are about today on this episode of Tax Matters. We have reached out to the relevant officials at the FRS and to some tax advisors, and we will be serving you what we brought back from our interactions with them. Stay tuned as we embark with you on a journey into the world of taxation in Nigeria. The program is Tax Matters, and I am Chamaka Ohauchi. We begin with two public notices from Revenue House in Abuja. The first is on the resolve of the FRS to bring its services closer to the tax-paying public. A new large taxpayers office non-oil has been established in Awka, Anambra State for the Eastern Zone. The new office is located at Class House Plot 4, Abuja Estate, Awka. The building is directly opposite Government House on the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway in Awka. The LTO non-oil office shall be responsible for the management of the tax files of all categories of taxpayers with turnover of 2 billion naira and above, domiciled in the southeastern states of Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo, with the exception of companies in the upstream sector of petroleum operations. Concerned taxpayers shall, with effect from the 15th day of July 2020, submit all returns, correspondences, or inquiries regarding their tax affairs to the LTO non-oil office, Awka, for processing. Further inquiries should be directed to the contacts on your screen. And just in case you received any information lately on employment into the FRS, let us inform you that no recruitment of any kind is going on at the FRS at the moment. The FRS is not conducting any fresh recruitment exercise. Rather, what is currently going on is verification of documents of those employed in the last quarter of 2019 by the past management and a few additions made in the first quarter of year 2020 by the current management as a result of the creation of new operational and tax audit offices in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. The verification, documentation, and induction exercises were later suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown in the country. The current exercise is therefore the completion of the verification of credentials and documentation exercise earlier suspended as a result of the lockdown. The FRS wishes to state emphatically for the general public to note that it is currently not receiving CVs and applications and therefore not recruiting. Read our lips. FRS is not recruiting. You are advised to be cautious of scammers and carriers of fake news to avoid being misled. Now to our feature of the day. Today, our topic of discussion is stamp duty administration. The FRS has stamp duty offices in every state of the Federation and the FCT. In recent weeks, stamp duty has been trending, with the federal government expressing its determination to make stamp duty a major revenue earner for the nation. In recent episodes of the program, we have highlighted issues around stamp duty. We want to continue today and we'll begin in Lagos because in Lagos alone, the Federal Inland Revenue Service operates 2 stamp duty offices. Of course, you know why. Beyond stamp duties, Lagos is divided by the FRS for administrative convenience into 3 regions: Lagos Island, Lagos Mainland East, and Lagos Mainland West. Mr. Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed is the State Coordinator FRS, Lagos Mainland East.
Thank you for joining us on Tax Matters, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
How many regions does the FRS have in Lagos?
We have Lagos Island, we have Lagos Mainland East, and then we have Lagos Mainland West. Okay. And my jurisdiction covers the whole of Lagos Mainland East.
Covering how many tax offices?
9 tax offices, 8 tax audit offices, a stamp duty office, okay, and a government business tax office. Okay. So it's a very pretty large state coordination. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. If you were running a company, we would ask you, how is business going?
It will be my pleasure to say it's doing well.
The billions are rolling.
Yes, we are rolling.
The taxpayers are cooperating.
We are doing our best.
We give God all the glory. Today we want to talk about stamp duty. It's trending now. And ordinarily when you hear stamp, the mind goes to posting letters, post, and all that. So what is the difference between stamp as we grew up to know them and stamp duty?
Okay. To start with, stamp duty is a tax type that FRS is mandated to collect by the federal government. Like all other tax types, the VAT, withholding tax, company income tax, CGT, etc., etc. It is a tax on dutiable documents or instruments that are spelled out in what we call the principal acts of the tax type. Some of those instruments include agreements, promissory notes, MOUs, and all other such documents that are spelled out in that principal act.
I must admit that I've come across stamp duty as you are talking about since I was very young. Some of them have been shown on the screen already. In also researching for this assignment, we found that the principal act, as you referred to it a few minutes ago, dates back to 1939, the Stamp Duty Ordinance under the colonial regime. So we wonder why it really became something that is trending. Were you not collecting stamp duties before? No. Is this something new?
Stamp duty is actually not something new. It has been there with us for as long as we can remember. It was first enacted sometime in 1939. And since then it has been trending. The only difference is that there has been a lot of evolution in the economic activities in the whole world, not just Nigeria. We have moved a lot of distance from where we used to be before. What is trending now is technology, e-commerce, the cross-border activities, and all that. And because of the changes in these commercial activities or process or procedures of doing things, we have also decided to also make amendments and changes in our process and procedures in enforcing these stamp duties. And that is why you see, you go to the banks, you want to make transaction to your friends or brothers or old mummies in the village, and the bank is charging you a particular amount, and they call it stamp duties. Before now, what we used to use is our checks. We give our mummies and daddies check booklets or leaflets in advance in the villages, and when time reach, they go and cash it. But what we fail to understand is that even on that checks, if we look very well, we will see that those checks carry stamp duties.
Even way back?
Even way back, as far back as 1939. All our checkbook, go check your old booklets of checkbook. You see
Some
them.
are appearing on the screen
Yes,
right now.
Exactly. They carry those stamps. So we have been paying them before now. The only difference is that now we don't use checkbooks any longer. For me, like me, I cannot remember when last I used checkbook, check leaflets. What I do, I sit down in my office, use my phone, transfer 10,000 naira to Mr. A, and in the course of doing that, of course, I suffer stamp duty. The stamp duty that I will not have paid if this evolution has not come in. I would have evaded it because I'm not using check leaflets.
It's not a new tax.
It's not a new tax.
It's not that you are just waking up.
It's not that we are just waking up.
It's just that you have readdressed
we have
your
just
processes
readdressed our process and
procedures.
Exactly.
We started by asking you to distinguish between the postage stamp and the stamp duty, and you did that beautifully. But then we also know that in those days, the 2 kobo or 2
Exactly.
penny, depending
5
on
pence,
before
whatever.
1973,
Exactly.
we used to be affixed on receipts.
Yes.
Why has the FRS considered it necessary to produce its own adhesive stamp? Are we forgetting the NIPO stamps?
No, we are not forgetting the NIPO stamps because we cannot ask NIPOs to go out of business. But if you look at the act that established NIPOs, they have been given their own responsibilities and functions to carry out, just like FRS2 has its own functions and whatever duties to carry out. And because the demarcations are very clear, you are NIPOs, produce your stamp. If you are delivering documents or items or letters on behalf of any customer, let him pay you by using that stamp. The money he has paid to buy the stamp is exactly what he will have used to pay you if he was paying cash direct. In the case of FRS, we have a duty by the government to collect certain amount of money for a particular year under that stamp duty tax type. And therefore, we have to evolve a lot of system of doing it. And because the base is very wide, stamp duty base is very wide, we have decided, okay, introduce the adhesive stamp. It makes it very easy for our taxpayers. All you need is to buy, if you are an operator of a system, you issue a lot of receipts, pick stamps from FRS. Any receipt you issue, it's very easy for you, pick it from your safe, put it on the receipt, and issue to your customer. And at the end of the day, our tax base is so wide, and the income coming in is so easy to implement, and the quantum of collection definitely will become very big because the base is very, very wide. And even the impact is so low because the amount of money you are paying for stamping your receipt is so small that you don't feel it most times. But because many people are paying that small amount, at the end of the day, the pool becomes very big. That is the idea of adhesive.
Let's place them side by side. A NIPO postage stamp will be affixed on letters when you are posting letters. But if I'm putting a stamp on a receipt to authenticate that receipt, it must be the FRS newly launched adhesive stamp.
Exactly. That is the stamp that is legally...
I cannot use the NIPO
no.
postage stamp now on receipts.
No, you cannot use. It was a misnomer before now that people stamp receipts with NIPO's stamp. But now we have decided no. The Finance Act that just came in, beginning to implement in 2020, is very clear on that. FRS has now been given the full mandate, the full responsibility to operate stamp duty as a tax. And therefore, we feel we should have a little demarcation between FRS and NIPO stamp.
Is it a flat 50 naira stamp or you have different denominations?
No, it's a flat 50 stamp for now.
Naira.
I don't know, maybe.
What we put on receipts
exactly,
now.
that's what we put on receipts
Not
now.
the postage stamp.
Not the postage stamp, please.
As an individual or as a corporate organization, what do I stand to benefit from submitting myself to stamp duty?
Okay. You stand to gain a lot when you stamp your document rather than when you don't stamp. The most important for any individual or corporate body is that whenever there's an agreement or a transaction between two parties, whether corporate or individual, the human element is always involved. And as human beings, there's always this tendency of default. So if perchance there's a default in the transaction through any of the two parties involved, and perchance you did not at any point in time stamp your document, it means that document cannot be justiciable in courts. Exactly. You cannot, it's not a new law, it has been there. If your documents are not stamped, you cannot go to court and justify that transaction. That is why it is very important, whatever, no matter how small the transaction is, no matter how wide it is advisable that you stamp those documents and those agreements so that you have a cover in the event of any default from any of the parties. If, for instance, two individuals or corporate bodies enter into an agreement or a transaction, and God forbid, one of the partners passed away. And the next of kin wants to come into the contract. And unfortunately, the contract is not stamped. There's almost no place for the next of kin to come in.
The other party is dead.
The other party is dead.
Huh.
But if those documents are stamped, you easily go to courts and seek for redress from the courts. The other thing is, as a good citizen, it is also good you stamp, because by stamping you have done your basic civic responsibility. You pay your stamp duty as provided by the law. You have done your civic responsibility. Those are the, yeah, of course, definitely. I'm a tax man. I should always come from that angle. Yes, sir. So those are the win-win situation we have in respect of stamp duty payments.
You know, you went that far talking about a party to the agreement passing on. That really scares me.
Yes,
it means that this is very important.
Exactly.
This kind of nonsense has to end today. Why would the bank be removing somebody's money every time like that?
Mr. John.
My neighbor!
Yes, sir. Why are you rushing to like this?
Can you imagine? I just sent money to my son, and I got a debit alert of 15 naira from my bank as stamp duty. I am going to seek explanation from my bank because I made a transfer, not post a letter.
Mr. John, let me explain what stamp duty is. Stamp duty is not all about postage stamp matters. The 15 naira is a stamp duty levy charged by banks on customers who make transfers of 10,000 naira and above from one bank account to another bank account.
And why should I pay stamp duty for my hard-earned money?
Mr. John, paying stamp duty levy is a civic duty for every patriotic citizen. The taxes we all pay are collected and used by the government to pay salaries and provide basic amenities for citizens. It's even easier to make stamp duty payments now. All you need to do as a taxpayer is to log on to the following: www.stampduty.gov.ng or www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-stamping. By the way, Mr. John, it pays to pay your tax, you know.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you, my daughter.
You're welcome,
My
sir.
regards to your family.
All right, sir.
This broadcast is powered by FIRS, Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Thank you for staying with us. Still staying on stamp duty matters. Mr. David Ogedengbe is the State Coordinator, FIRS, Lagos Island. Mr. Ogedengbe oversees the FIRS Stamp Duty Office located at the Sterling House on the Marina in Lagos. Mr. Ogedengbe, welcome to Tax Matters.
Thank you.
We understand that stamp duty is collectible by both the FIRS and the State Internal Revenue Services. Can you enlighten our viewers about the jurisdictions at both levels?
Okay, thank you. The stamp duty, like you said, is collected by State Internal Revenue and the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The transactions between individuals, like you and me, is subject to stamp duty for the internal revenue. But for transactions that are between individuals and corporate bodies, those are transactions that are collectible by the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Please, can you share with us the list of chargeable transactions and also the applicable rates?
We have a very long list of taxable transactions, and it is broken into two. They are either flat rates or they are ad valorem rates. By ad valorem rates, we are talking about rates that is based on the value. And there are, like I said, there are so many. But I can just give a few examples. Some of the ad valorem rates will include contracts, agreements, and such other transaction policies along that line. And then for the flat rates, you have cases like you have incorporation. You have a very long list of stamp duties that are either ad valorem or flat.
What are the obligations of parties in regard to stamp duty? For example, where tenancy agreement is concerned, who bears the burden? Is it the landlord or the tenant? And who remits?
Okay, for a tenancy agreement, the tenant bears the burden, but it is payable by the landlord. The landlord is expected to collect the stamp duty on the tenancy and remit to the relevant authority, either the State Internal Revenue or the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, for the benefit of our viewers or for taxpayers, how do we pay stamp duties? We ask this because when it concerns stamp duty on electronic transfers, it is deducted at source by the banks. But when it is in relation to other documents, how is payment to be made?
Okay. Like I said, we already have offices. More so, we already have dedicated accounts with Central Bank to receive various duties on various other transactions. Like I said, if you are doing an incorporation and you want to pay stamp duty, those stamp duties, you approach our offices, they will stamp your document, you will pay online to the various accounts that are domiciled with central banks. And we have various accounts which we have already sent to various interest groups like banks and professional associations.
Finally, sir, do you think stamp duty can deliver the level of revenue earnings desired by the government?
Yes, of course. Even now, between February and June, we have collected close to 68 billion. And we are looking at collecting close to 200 billion for this year alone. And I think that level of income is good for government.
Stamp duty, stamp duty. As you have heard, stamp duty is not a new tax type. It has been with us since 1939. My people from Warri will say, it don't pay. More of the chargeable transactions and applicable rates are on your screen. They are also available on the FIRS website as well as on the Tax Matters Twitter handle. Before we move on, let us emphasize one point. The much talked about stamp duty on tenancy and lease agreement is in 3 categories. If the tenancy agreement is for a tenure of 1 to 7 years, the rate is a very small 0.78%. If it is for a period of 7 to 21 years, it is 3%. However, for long-term tenancy and lease agreement above 21 years, the stamp duty rate is 6%. That is the one that has been trending in the media. But be rest assured that for the vast majority of us, including myself, it is a paltry 0.78%. For example, if your rent is 100,000 naira per annum, the stamp duty payable on the agreement is 780 naira. See, less than 1,000 naira. If for any reason you have to physically visit the stamp duty office, there is an office in every state of the country and the FCT. But in this day and age, all you need is a click of the button. For stamp duty transactions, real-time online, all you need to do is to log on to www.stampduty.gov.ng or www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-stamp duty. Our first set of interviews on this trending issue of stamp duty was with a total of 6 men and women from the FIRS and from the private sector. We are sure that so far you're having fun while being educated and enlightened. Next episode, we are going to continue with these interviews and stamp duty will still be our focus. Do well to join us next week on this same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Don't forget you can also watch this episode and previous episodes of this program on our social media handles. Barka Desala. Bye for now.